Hi there and welcome to another tutorial from Justine, the Twilight Stamper. Today we're going to be creating a really adorable, clean, simple card with just one layer on it. And I'm going to be using this card here. Now normally I don't create them in advance, but I did create this in the studio the other day and I really loved the way that it turned out. I think it's adorable and totally perfect for so many friends. So I plan on creating this card later on in bulk. I created this matching coordinating envelope with it with the cute little candy canes and wreath to kind of match the card, and I was really proud of it, so I decided to create this video tutorial and I hope you'll enjoy it. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a piece of, for my card base, 4 1/4. This is going to be a top folding card by 11. And then I'm going to score it at 5.5 inches to create my fold. Now I'm going to be using 2 stamp sets from Simon Says Stamp called Ugly Sweaters and Sweater Words and Appliques. They're kind of a set and I got them with the coordinating die cut. And these stamps are just adorable. I love ugly sweater parties and I love ugly Christmas sweaters, and so the stamp set just screamed to me when I saw it this year in the lineup. So I'm just going to fold over my top folding card and make sure that the crease is really pressed nicely. You can use a boning folder for this as well, but I just used my finger for this video. Okay, I'm going to be using some MEMENTO black ink, and I'm going to be using this light bulb stamp set from one of the sets from the word set. And I'm going to create this sort of border along the bottom. And it was really easy to create. All you have to do, because it's a clear stamp, is just stamp close to the bottom. It was about 1/4 inch from the bottom. And then I just kind of, oops, that could have been a disaster. I just kind of twirled it around and made it go up and down and things like that. So it's just up to you as to how you want to create this. And I just kind of overlapped those little ends there, and it worked out perfectly for this card base bottom. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is stamp the sweater stamp using, again, MEMENTO black ink because I'm going to be coloring this with Copics. And I'm going to stamp this just on a scrap piece of paper. You want to apply even pressure, and you should get a nice crisp image. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Santa stamp and I'm going to ink that up with MEMENTO as well. Now I didn't put this straight on my stamp press because I can see where I'm stamping it, so I just kind of tilted my stamp press. I was being a little lazy there, and I stamped that in the middle of my sweater. And look, the stamp actually looks like it was meant to be stamped with that Santa. I mean, I love this set. There's so much you can do with it. I'm going to take that holly stamp set that I just showed you and a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just going to go along and sort of random stamp this holly onto the sweater using this scrap piece of paper to help me avoid getting it off the edges, because when I do cut it with a die cut there is a slight white border around it, and so we do want to make sure we stay inside the lines. Okay, so I just have you in fast mode here so that we can go along and kind of stamp this. As you can see, I'm just randomly stamping it and turning my stamp set around so that it doesn't look like you're stamping it in the same direction all the time, because usually a fabric wouldn't look like that. And when I'm finished, I took several Copic markers and I colored in my background. So I used R29, G9, and then I used E00, I believe, and R11 for the Santa face. I just went along the bottom here, and I didn't bother stamping them one after the other, like red, green. I just kind of did it randomly. And then for this one, I ended up just using the E00 and giving him some rosy cheeks, and then I colored in red and green for the holly on him and the Santa hat. Before, I wanted to mention on the Christmas lights, you want to make sure that you're applying very, very light pressure to your Copic marker, or it's going to bleed through your card base and then you're going to see it from the inside. It's not that big of a deal, but it doesn't look very nice when you open up the card. So just make sure it's very, very light and minimal coloring. I didn't bother with any shading because really it's just the pattern on the fabric itself, and so I just kind of colored it in with a Copic just to make sure I get that even, no streak look. And I really like the way that it turned out. I'm going to take this die cut and send it through my die cutting machine. So now that I have this all die cut out and we're out of fast mode, I'm going to attach this to my card using some foam tape. So you can see here how it bled through, and that's why I kind of warned you about doing those lights. But before I attach it with the 3D dots, I want to place my sentiment on here and kind of see where I'm going to end up placing my sweater and where I'm going to place my sentiment. So I'm going to take this sentiment from the Words and Appliqué set from Simon Says Stamp, which is a set that actually goes with the ugly sweater stamp. And I'm going to ink that up again with Memento ink. The reason why, it's not because I'm coloring with Copics, but I just want all the black ink to be the same shade of black. So I'm going to kind of position that sweater on there, and I'm going to straighten the stamp press so that it stamps perfectly straight. And when I stamp down, I really love it. May all your sweaters be ugly and bright. I just think it's such an adorable sentiment and adorable stamp set. So whoever created it, thank you so much. And I'm going to take these 3D foam tapes, or foam dots, whatever you want to call them, and I'm going to put them on the back of the sweater just to give it a little bit of dimension. You could put it directly on the card, but again, I like a little bit of dimension on my cards. So you're going to place that just in the center. You could put it on a diagonal a little bit, but I liked the way it was just straight. Gave the card a really nice look. And that is your finished card front. Now for the inside of the card, I am going to be stamping this Eat, Drink, and Be Tacky as my inside card sentiment. I very rarely show the inside of my cards or the coordinating envelopes, and I thought that would just be a nice thing to share today. I'm going to ink that up again with Memento ink. And I did stamp this slightly off center. I'm not really quite sure what I was thinking there. But I ended up being able to fix that, so it was kind of a happy mistake. And so you can see my card shifted there. And so I needed to find a way to make it not look ridiculous. So what I did was there was a couple of little dot stamps that came with this stamp set, little tiny circles. So I used Simon Says Stamp Schoolhouse Red. And I took these little dot stamps. I took the smallest and the medium sized one. I attached the medium one first to my 1-inch block. I find it easier when these really small stamps to use a small block. And I just random stamped these circles to be kind of like the holly. And by doing this, I'm kind of creating a distraction for the fact that my sentiment isn't straight. And then I'm going to come in and fill in some of those gaps with the little tiny dot. And I really like the way that this turned out, and I would probably recommend doing it for other cards. I mean, I kind of never really thought about decorating the inside with little dots and things like that after you place your sentiment, but I really like the way that it turned out. It ended up actually kind of stamping into a speech bubble, which kind of was a random accident that I liked as well. Now it doesn't look so off-center. And now onto the envelope. Okay, so I am using this envelope, and as you can see, I got a little red ink on there, but no big deal. I'll show you how to fix that. I'm using Schoolhouse Red from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm randomly stamping this candy cane. When you're finished, you want to make sure that you wipe your work surface to make sure that none of that red ink is there when you flip over the envelope to stamp the wreath. You don't want that red ink getting on the front of your card. So I just random stamped that in different heights on the bottom to give it a little bit of some layers, you know, some different heights and things like that, which creates some interest. And I'm going to just grab a white gel pen to fix that red bit on there. So before I go in and fix my mistake, I'm going to stamp the wreath on the back. And I stamped it also in the Simon Says Stamp Schoolhouse Red. I think on my other card I stamped it in Memento Black ink, and probably would have stamped it in Memento Black ink again, just because you had that red outline and then the green holly. It looked a little bit funny, but not too bad. When you're stamping with normal inks and using Copic markers, you want to make sure to kind of avoid the edges and avoid saturating the edges of the ink so the ink doesn't bleed. Because this is a small image and I'm not adding any shading, I wasn't too concerned. I just want to make sure that I scrub off my stamp though, and make sure that you clean your stamps always before putting them back, or you'll end up mixing colors later. Alright, so I'm just going to grab my white gel pen again, and I'm going to go in and fix that little red dot, and another red dot. I'm going to go over that red dot again when it dries, and it will fade away. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to use this G09, I believe it is, Copic marker to color along the holly and the wreath here. And then I'm going to go back in with that R29 and color the bow and the little baubles. All right, so that's my coordinating envelope and card, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today using the Ugly Sweater stamp set. More tutorials to come in a few days. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe.